Thank you. Call to order the meeting of Monday, June 26th. If the clerk would please read the roll.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Ashford.
Present.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lamb.
Here.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Here.
Councilmember Warden.
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here. You have the minutes of the regular meeting of June the 12th before you. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Archibald, is there any additions, deletions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will stand as submitted. We do have two public hearings tonight. If the clerk would please read the first one.
To hear comments on the continuation of the Downtown Special Assessment District for the ongoing maintenance of the Huron Avenue Streetscape Project. Following the hearing, Council will consider adoption of the resolution to continue the Special Assessment District.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council under this public hearing? This is for the downtown special assessment for the maintenance on the Huron Avenue Streetscape Project. Please come to the podium.
Rep, City Manager James Freed, and council members. I'm Bill Mosier of Mosier's Jewelers in beautiful downtown Port Huron, the store with the street clock. I got my ad in there. Anyway, everybody knows that street clock. It's been out there a long time. I have the distinct honor of being president, past president of both Downtown Port Huron, Inc., and Main Street Incorporated, which unfortunately is no longer in existence, either of them. But when they were, lots was done in this town to dress it up. New storefronts were refurbished, including our own in 1993, our historic storefront. Anyway, along with this came the streetscape, and I believe Anita Ashford had a lot to do with that, and others. And I take great pride in downtown, as our family has been here since 1906. We're a great supporter of the Main Street streetscape. We wish it to continue. I think when you look back at just the one single thing about the snow removal, before we had the streetscape, we used to call it, in the wintertime, Fort Port Huron. The piles of snow between the meters, which fortunately no longer exist, the meters that is, were hard to, we had to cut paths through it so our customers who parked out on the street could wade through the snow drifts to get in the stores. Well, now we organized in the Huron 300 block, from the 100, 200, and 300 block Huron, we organized the snow removal, and I believe on the other side of the river too. So I think it's a great deal, and for the small amount of a special assessment that we've been levied, I think it's a deal at twice the price would still be a deal. But I don't recommend you double it. Thank you. And the only thing I would say is that when it was originally envisioned, it was thought that Main Street would continue, and there would be once a year possible little meeting with the city to the people who are paying for it would have a chance to voice their opinions. Maybe we should do this or that or the other thing besides maintain it. So I would hope that in the future that possibly that could be worked into the schedule, not as a special meeting like taking up your valuable time here, but just to put out the word that maybe we could meet at Mr. Freed's office for a short meeting just to talk it over before we proceed to the next year. That's all. And my sister Emily says thank you for the flowers. She's a gardener. She thought she was doing a good job on the flowers. Okay?
Thank you, and Mr. Freed did note that, so I'm sure he will follow up on that.
I believe our downtown development director as well has been holding regular meetings.
Yes.
With all the
we
business
could do
owners.
That. So
I'm not sure if you've been at one of the meetings she's been at with the Business Association downtown. They have a meeting, I believe, they're meeting in Sperry's.
Yes, okay.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
hearing me.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council on public hearing number 1? Seeing no one else, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford.
Madam Mayor,
Councilmember Warden.
I just wanted to make sure I ask legal counsel if I should be involved in this discussion as the building that I own, and I also am assessed and do pay that assessment, if I'm allowed to be involved in this or not.
Mr. Shouty will respond.
Yeah, I believe on this type of vote where it impacts you financially directly, that it would be appropriate to abstain. This would be
Okay.
one of those rare exceptions.
Yep. I'd like to abstain from this.
When we call the vote, then you just abstain
Thank you.
at that time, okay? Is there any discussion otherwise? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald,
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Warden,
I abstain.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll move on to public hearing number 2.
To hear comments on the continuation of the Downtown Special Assessment District for the ongoing maintenance of the Military Street Streetscape Project. Following the hearing, council will consider adoption of the resolution to continue the Special Assessment District.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening on public hearing number 2? This is also for the Downtown Special Assessment District, but this is on Military Street, south of the bridge. Is there anyone in the audience? Just as an added note, we did, for the record, because it is a public hearing, we did receive a letter from Mark Walker from Michigan Mutual, who just had some questions as to the charges, et cetera. So he did, that will be entered into the record because it is a public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I would just note the difference, the large difference between the Huron Street Special Assessment and the Military Street Special Assessment is that when the special assessments were originally formed, the Huron Ave property owners requested snow removal, and the Military Street property owners, a majority did not want snow removal. And so that's why there's special assessment snow removal on the north side of the bridge and not the south side. However, a lot of the property owners around the Desmond District have been meeting. Our DDA director's been attending those meetings. I've attended a few. So I do anticipate in the next year or so, they'll probably want to add snow removal on. I think it's something they've noted how nice the snow removal is, and I think that's something that we can anticipate in the future.
Okay.
No, Rep, you said we had the communication from Mr. Walker. Was he answered?
He was answered by the
okay?
clerk's office with the
Oh, okay.
information, yes. He
All right,
was.
thank you.
Yes. Is there anyone then in the audience who wishes to address this public hearing? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I will ask for a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rupp,
Councilmember Warden.
I just have a quick question on the projected estimated cost at $15,000, but the assessment is at 9,275. So apparently there's a fund balance that's been building up. Is there anything particular? Planned for additional expenditures, or what they were in the past?
I think Mr. Brennan's going to answer.
Not at this time, but we have enough in the fund balance to cover a portion of that cost, so that's why the assessment is less than the expected cost, and the rest is going to come out of fund balance.
So same service is expected?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Warden,
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald,
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll now move on to public comment portion of our agenda. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening for an agenda item or any other thing that we might have under our jurisdiction, please come forward and give us your name, and you have 4 minutes.
Mayor Rep, Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, council members, city manager. My name is Richard Hodgkin. People know me in Old Town as Pastor Dick. I live at 1013 7th Street. I serve as pastor and teacher of St. John's United Church of Christ at 701 Pine Street. I have with me tonight Dennis Crimmins, Deacon Dennis Crimmins from Holy Trinity Parish. More specifically, he is involved with the life and pastoral leadership of St. Joseph Catholic Parish on 7th Street. I speak this evening on behalf of the Blue Water Area Churches Association, a group of Christian churches in and around Port Huron. I would like to start by reading the first paragraph of a statement issued by the organization. I'd asked the clerk's office to pass you that earlier today. I won't read it in its entirety, but it sets the stage if I share that first paragraph, especially with those perhaps here tonight. And I quote, "At the Blue Water Area Church's April meeting at McLaren Port Huron Hospital, 49 ministers met to address the drug epidemic in the Blue Water area. We invited Dr. Annette Mercantant, Medical Health Officer of the St. Clair County Health Department, St. Clair County Sheriff Tim Donnellan, Dr. Kimberly Clark Paul, surgeon, and Pastor Darren Weiss, a former addict and now minister from Macomb County. We asked them to share about this problem from their respective perspectives. We wanted to better learn about the extent of the problem and possible solutions. The statistics for our county are shocking, as it is one of the highest in the state per capita. In 2016, 72 drug-related deaths were reported in the county. This loss of life is unacceptable. We will continue meeting, strategizing, and actively pursuing courses of action that the faith community can specifically do to combat this horrific problem. The Blue Water Area churches are making the drug epidemic our primary focus. To this end, a special recovery task force has been established. The Recovery Task Force is composed of representatives from a broad spectrum of churches. Early goals of the Recovery Task Force include the following. 1, working to remove the stigma to individuals who are in addiction so that they will be willing to seek help. 2, building on the foundation of things that are already working, including supporting the recovery community. 3, identifying best recovery practices from around the country. 4, mobilizing people in the churches to act as advocates and mentors for those seeking recovery. We are certain that as the Recovery Task Force delves deeper into this important subject matter, we will identify other specific actions that the faith community can take. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mayor Rep, City Manager, members of the council, I come before you, as you've already heard from our pastors, and you've heard our approach as spiritual leaders, but also, I am also a community activist, and I also live in South Park. And I'm concerned, and so I raise this question. A few weeks ago, there was this article that came out in our Times-Herald talking about some of the infractions that a local organization had concerning the way in which they managed and they approached the recovery issue. I understand there's some legalities there that exist, but I was wondering, because what went through my mind, and you can tell me if I'm approaching this in the wrong way, I thought somewhat of this idea that if there is an organization or an entity that is approaching a public problem in a way that may be considered unhealthy or unlawful, that there would be some alternative that would be raised in lieu of just maybe outdoing or getting rid of the work that they may be doing that may be positive. So my question is, what would be the alternative that the city would put in place of those recovery outreaches that may not necessarily be in line with the ordinances and said laws that would still be just as effective? Because just here recently, this week, we lost a few more people to this epidemic, and now it's also causing, in the South Park on last night, not sure if it got reported as of yet, some home invasions are occurring just near Grant Street. So my question is, what is the alternatives that the city is proposing to deal with this epidemic, and how could we rally around said efforts?
Well, I think at this particular time, I know Mr. Freed and others have been meeting to try and come up with a solution.
I can address that question.
Do you want to go ahead? But before we do, we don't want to go back and forth, so we want to wait until the
Yeah.
end of the public hearing. We don't usually go back and forth. And you did not give us your name for the record. I know who you are, but for the record.
No worries. Trey Smith.
Okay. And when everyone is done talking, then we will have Mr. Freed address the issue, okay?
My name is Sharon Mikesell, and I live here in Port Huron. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager, and council members, first of all, I wanted to thank you for giving of yourselves and your time for a community which is so dear to my heart and which I greatly love. I stand before you a very, very grateful member of a large recovery community here in this wonderful town. I'm grateful for all I have seen happening here as people grow and change and become assets to their families, friends, colleagues, and neighborhoods. When I heard of the problems that Vision Quest was having recently, I was greatly saddened. You see, in the last week alone, I have, in just 2 recovery meetings, seen about almost 12 people get up and get from 1 month to 1 year medallions, like what I have in my pocket. The majority of those people are in Vision Quest. Unfortunately, right now, with the cease and desist, there are people that can't come out of jail and be in the 3-quarter houses. There are people that aren't able to be helped, and we have so many people dying to be able to get into places like this. I personally sponsor and work with people in Vision Quest, and I'm very grateful for what they do. When I came into recovery 13 and a half years ago, I couldn't handle what a normal 41-year-old could. I lacked the ability to do simple things like maintain a vehicle or keep insurance on it or tires. I thought I would always have to depend on others to take care of these things. I see this in countless others, but thanks to programs like Vision Quest, I also see them start learning, first to make their bed, then to show up to appointments. And next thing you know, they're doing like I did and getting a degree and becoming fully self-supporting. I don't fool myself into thinking that all are going to be successful. However, I have found time and time again and seen many statistics showing how people going into 3-quarter houses like Vision Quest, instead of going to places where they used, and often where family members and friends are also doing so, have a much greater chance of recovery. It makes me wonder if perhaps we can work together to resolve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Williams, and I am a concerned citizen. Port Huron is a wonderful place, and there's only one place better than that, and that would be Goodles, Michigan. All right. First of all, I would like to say to the city council and the people that are behind the splash pad on the south end, thank you. It's looking wonderful, and I thank you for the progress that's made. We asked for it, and you guys made sure it happened. So on that note, thank you. And I do apologize for the noise that's going around here in St. Clair, in this area. But I am proud of what I see. And I stop by and let the guys know all the time how proud I am of that. And my kids can't wait to get on that splash pad. But I wanted to bring my children today, when I do come to these meetings, I normally do bring my little kids here because I think it's important for them to be engaged. But this meeting, I could not bring them because it's about them. I'm a foster parent and have been a foster parent for 36 years, and I'm a social worker, and I've been a social worker for 27 years. My children normally come to me because of drugs and their parents unable to cope and deal with them, so I get those children. And I know what they suffer from after they're in my home and how they're trying to get back to their parents. But many of times they're not able to get there, they're adopted out, or I just keep them until they can age out the system, or I ask the court, can I have them under a guardianship? And that's what I do. I don't understand how this city can sell a building for $1, sell a large section of land and shut down a street to a developer, donate land, but when there's a recovery house that needs help, there's ambulance that come there, the police are called there quite often, but that's what happens at a place that needs help. These people, I never really used drugs, and I don't know what it is to be an addict, but one thing is when I need help, I need help. These people come to this city, but the majority of the people are from this city. And we are so willing and so fast to say no to something that is doing a good job. And we give developers and stuff all kind of leadway in the city, but the people who are here minding their business, doing the right thing, trying to help others, we're shooing them away. Often it's because the right pockets aren't being padded. Traditional recovery is not happening anymore. Those days are gone. We have an epidemic here that is horrible, and it's causing lives. My adopted nephew lost his sister a week ago. She was buried on Wednesday to the drug epidemic. We have to do something. We cannot shut these homes down. We have to do something here. If you can give a developer land for $1, sell that beautiful building over there for $1, then why not find a space that's fitting for these recovery houses? Don't say that, get rid of them, because what's going to happen, when you get rid of them, they're going to end up in the place where I lived at. If they have no place to go, if they have no recovery, because traditional recovery doesn't work, it isn't working as well as it used to, those people are going to end up in your backyards. They're going to end up in my backyard.
Ms.
So
Williams,
it's time.
your 4 minutes is up.
Okay, so it's time. We have to think out of the box now and figure out a way to work together so everybody can live happy in this area. Else it's going to hit your home sooner or later too if we don't do something about it, so we can't hide any longer.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the City Council under public comment?
Kathleen McCready, 414 14th Street. Mayor and Council, Mr. Freed. In August of 2009, an event was held for the purpose of bringing neighbors together. Candidates for Port Huron City Council and even the city manager, Mr. Brown, at the time, attended. We were filled with hope and rallied around the strength of neighbors coming together with a common goal to see the area be the best place to live. As a group, we hosted National Night Out neighborhood meetings with the topics of code enforcement, rental overlay, voter registration, candidate forum, meet the new police chief, Chief Reeves at the time. A neighborhood watch was organized and multiple years of successful neighborhood cleanups. There has most definitely been a lot of changes in the neighborhood. We voted amongst ourselves to call Harrison Point in the last 8 years. The negatives are not the topic tonight, the positives are. the investment of blight removal, cleanup events, citizens participating in events such as the Citizens Police Academy, and just the simple task of getting acquainted with our neighbors has stabilized our neighborhood, which in turn stabilizes our city. We are appreciative of the recognition and the sign at 10th of Water that says Harrison Point Neighborhood. Sorry, it's emotional for me. As I look back, two things stick in my mind. The name took root almost immediately. It seems we never had to struggle to make it stick. And two, it has only been 8 years. Plans are underway for landscaping to enhance the sign. It will likely take until fall before it is complete. As things go, once the sign was placed, it was obvious that just planting some rose bushes was not good enough. The planting area needs to be framed and filled with soil, etc. I also thought it would be nice to have the extra funds to plant some bushes at the existing driveway on Verney Street so the orange cones could be removed. Funds will need to be raised. We are ready to do that. Hopefully I will look back in another 8 years. I hope as a community of government and residents we can accomplish great change and a dedication ceremony at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Hi, my name's Rick Skeeter, and I didn't even plan on coming here tonight. I am I can say this, a responsible taxpayer and citizen of Port Huron. I came to Port Huron in 2003, and if you looked at me, you probably wouldn't recognize me as I stand here before you today. I went through a divorce, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. And I'm a very passionate person about that because I lived in Rochester at the time, and I kept my disease under control, I would say. I made a good living, had a beautiful home, beautiful wife, and my life came apart because alcoholism. I was accepted into the city of Port Huron after treatment and went to a recovery home called Davies House of Hope that does no longer exist anymore. And I really don't understand if you guys knew that it was a recovery home, but the recovery people were living there, and we went to the recovery meetings in Port Huron. I know a lot of the people that are in the crowd today, and if it wasn't for that home, I would not be here. I am a responsible person in this community. If you came by my home, it's one of the most beautiful homes in the area. I'm proud of it, and I'm very proud to live in this area. I've emailed a couple of you, not over recovery because I keep my recovery quiet, but most of you have answered my emails back, and I'm proud to say I live here. I really am, and I thank you for letting me welcoming to your city, and actually I'd like to get more involved if I could. But when I read that article in the Times-Herald, part of me said the discriminatory part of alcoholism and addiction is so bad, and I kept it in for 20 years that I didn't want anybody to know. But I am who I am because of it. And because people in Port Huron gave me an opportunity, I'm a better human being for it. My career path is helping other recovering people in the treatment center that I came out of. And just look at recovery housing as a place that people can change their lives. I know there is a lot of stigma with it because when you say addiction and alcoholism, I know I didn't want to become one, but if you look at my family, everybody in my family is recovering alcoholic. I believe it's a genetic thing, and you folks gave me an opportunity, and the people in Port Huron gave me an opportunity. Nobody wiped their hands with me, and I'm here today because of you guys. So just when you're looking into the recovery houses, I think they are a necessary part, and they are going to be a big part of the world we live in. We have the largest opium epidemic in the world right now in our country, United States. And alcoholism is a socially acceptable disease, but alcoholism and drug addiction in my eyes are no different. No different. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council?
Good evening, council members. My name is Mrs. Randolph. I'm a resident of Port Huron. I've lived at my home for 23 years. I got blighted for the boat in my side yard. Brand new offshore race boat. I own a double lot. I sold my other boat to the man at 3208 directly across the street from me, my old offshore Formula racing boat. He's got his sitting there. So I had contacted John Schmidt, building inspector. And I guess you have to move your boat every 48 hours, audience, citizens of Port Huron. Can I see a raise of hand? May I ask if you're a council member, if you're a city official, if you're an officer, judge, lawyer, who in this courtroom owns a boat, a trailer, a fifth wheel, by the show of your hands? Nobody? Well, I'm fortunate. At any rate, I took time out of my day today, and I hit up a few addresses, front and back. Okay, so mind you, I live 3 blocks from the beach. 3 blocks. My boat ain't in nobody's way. It doesn't block traffic. No how, no way. So I did a little research, and we know the blight officers out in Midtown right now. But let's remember us up on LaSalle, Conger, Maple Street. I hit that. I did a drive-by. I drove by. I have pictures on my phone of my boat. It is in use. It's time dated and stamped. You can contact the United States Coast Guard. I had my boat out. I did a ship to shore to check to see if my radio went over into Canadian waters, ship to shore. It's all documented. My pictures are all time stamped. That boat moves. Just because I have a hater who lives 2 houses north of me, I get blighted every year. Oh, she's got a fifth wheeler. Yes, ma'am, I do. Yes, ma'am, I do. I worked hard. I had my paper out when I was 14. I'm about to be 60. I haven't done anything to anyone. I pay my taxes. My yard is plush. But if you drive by, let me throw a couple addresses at you. I hope it isn't anybody in the audience. Let's hit at 1029 Edison Boulevard. You got a broken down red truck with multi-motorcycles and a boat and trailer hiding behind your fence. At 3329, grass is 2 feet high. You got trailer, I got front, back, everything. So why am I being singled out? Directly across the street, I'm looking at my old boy. I said, hey, Mike, did you get blighted? No, why? And I said, look what I got. So I went, I talked to a couple neighbors. I said, Carol, did you get blighted? Nope. I said, okay. She said, I can't believe this. At 3172 Wright Street, they got 2 jet skis, boat and trailer, and a golf cart. 419 LaSalle, you got a boat and a trailer. I believe that's Hemp Drive or Hemp where the boat's at. That boat don't ever move. 1029 Edison Boulevard.
Mrs. Randolph, your 4 minutes is up.
Okay,
And
thank you for your time.
we certainly will have someone look into this, and I'm sure we have a contact number for you, do we?
Oh, you absolutely do.
Okay.
And I thank you.
Yeah, do you think she wanted to share her list to help the blight folks out?
She'll see me.
I mean, she did
Do
all
you have
that
a
work.
copy of your list?
Would you like to?
Do you have a copy of your list?
You can copy it, but I'd like to have it back because I'm going to check to make sure Mr. Schmidt is doing his job.
Okay.
And not singling out me.
If you want to, are you available during the day to go to the clerk's office and bring it in? They'll make a copy of it for you. And okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Rep. Thank you, Ms. Randolph.
Good afternoon, actually evening.
Yes.
My name is Christopher Cook, and I'm a longtime resident of the city. councilman and mayor and everyone. I want to thank Vision Quest for my recovery, for the people being there that understood my disease. I thank God that they were here, that NA was here, that A was here, or else I'd be in prison or dead. There wouldn't be much of a choice there. As the gentleman that just left knows me personally, I had a major problem. And it started with just a little pill that my doctor prescribed. You know, and being a typical kid from Port Huron, from a fairly affluent family, you know, there was pot and there was beer in high school. We all know how that is. You know, it is what it is. It wasn't until I was prescribed something, and then it was off to the races. And as somebody pointed out who was from VQ, that I was living in a homeless shelter, eating in the soup kitchen, and I thought my life was great. That's how messed up you can get on drugs. That I was unemployed and unemployable. My health was failing. And if it wasn't for the people there that pointed out my disease and my faults and pointed me on the direction, I would not be standing here. I'd probably be dead or in prison, like I said. So I thank God for them, you know, that I am able to contribute to my community now, that I'm no longer a liability, sleeping on the streets, digging through trash cans, or a criminal. You know, it has made a difference in so many people's lives. You know, we are your waiters. We do entry-level jobs. We cut your grass. We're starting over. And without this being here, the opportunities for people like me and many others would not happen, and we would die or be in prison. So I thank God, and I hope that you can reconsider something with VQ. I'm sure they're willing to work with you, you know, so thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager Freed, Mayor Pro Tem, distinguished council. I was going to come up, but then as I was listening, I wanted to come. My name is Kevin Watkins. I am president in Port Huron NAACP, and I'm from that great town of the Goodles also. And my second favorite place is Port Huron. I just listening here in regards to the something that came to me, and this stays with me all the times I think about what's going on with this opioid epidemic here in Port Huron and in the country. It's something Sheriff Donald said at a community forum. He said, why do people fall into this need of an addiction of using these substances to basically escape from reality? This group of people they've used all their defense mechanisms to escape in something of altered state of consciousness with these substances. And he stated that what they feel is hopelessness, that word hopelessness. And when someone reaches that stage and they've used up their defense mechanisms, they need help. And I'm listening to individuals come talking about the recovery homes, and that I can see people who are feeling hopeless go to a place to find hope. So what I'm looking at is concerning. I know a lot of the programs that will help with alcohol recovery. Now the opioid addiction comes from Medicaid, and that's getting ready to get cut majorly. So there'll be no help coming to us from other places. It's going to be us here in Port Huron doing it together. So I hope we will come together. We have people that want to help these individuals, and I'm hoping that Port Huron will embody that, and let's make it work, because there's nowhere else we can look for this but here amongst ourselves. So keep that in mind. Hopelessness to hope is what we need.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Hello, my name is Nathan Mullins. Most of you know my family. I'm also a longtime resident of Port Huron. Like Rick, I wasn't going to say anything, but I've been all over the world. My father was an executive officer in the U.S. Navy, so I've seen all different kinds of communities around the world, and my dad chose, out of all the places in the world, to come back to Port Huron. But what I'm going to talk about is 10.5 years ago, I decided to get clean. I had a long-time problem, mind and mood altering substances, and when I got clean, the hardest thing for me to find was a fresh start. For a lot of addicts, the only way a fresh start can come about is a 3/4 house. And there was a running joke for the longest time that I actually came with the Vision Quest house. I was actually there for over 5 years, not because I had to, but because by choice. And to kind of bring some clarity to the disease of addiction, after the physical part is gone, it is a thinking disease. It is an emotional disease. And those nights, when you're stuck in your head and the overpowering obsession to use becomes so overwhelming that you don't know what to do, when you have that one person at 12 o'clock at night that is going through the same darn thing as you are, being able to talk each other through it, that is how the 3/4 house thing is imperative to recovery. It's important. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Please, I beg of you, do something to help keep this recovery community in Port Huron, not just because of me or because of everybody else in this room, but because of that one person that has not been afforded a fresh start. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Andrea Murphy. I live in Port Huron. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of people who feel really passionately about this. I happen to work in Macomb County, and I don't know all the ins and outs of everything that goes on, but Macomb County supports 3/4 houses, and they're in their neighborhoods, and they actually have a program through their Office of Substance Abuse where they offer people 60-day scholarships to go to these houses. People are dying, and people are dying in Port Huron, and I think that, I don't know how, because they've flown under the radar for years. These houses have been here for years. And somehow, I think because of the article in the Times-Herald talking about how good people were doing, they became known, and whatever is going on has happened. Other communities, other counties, other cities are realizing that these kind of places support and help. And I would just like to say that I think that by the cease and desist order and by not allowing people to come to the houses, even the houses that are in code, we're on the wrong side of this fight. And I know you say that you care about recovery, but I got out stuff and I looked through. I know there's been drug busts and there's been things like that. I looked at all the pictures. I looked at all the names. I couldn't find one person who came through one of these houses that I know of. And a lot of people are dying and people want something to blame. And so I think that they're looking at these houses as we're bringing in all these drug addicts. They don't stay here. Like, I think that all of a sudden, the drugs are different. The drugs are not the same. The same drugs that somebody used 10 years ago, that's not what we're dealing with today. These drugs, I've done drug tests on people where they told me they've been using heroin for months, and I test them and they're not even positive for opiates. That's why people are dying. There's other stuff out there. And instead of trying to shut these down and denying people this opportunity, and putting them in some sort of a building in some other area, not in the residential area, that's why they work. They work because they're in the residential area, because they get a fresh start, because they don't have to, it's not, oh, that's the drug house. A lot of people probably never knew that that's what the house was, because they're beautiful houses. I've said that before. But that's why it works. And maybe it's the ordinance that's wrong, you know? So instead of shutting it down and denying people, I'm a recovery coach. I spend all day hanging out with people, helping them not get high. And I have met with people who planned on coming here, and then were told, I'm sorry, we can't accept anybody new. And the people, the powers that be or whatever that are in charge of Vision Quest didn't tell us to come tonight. So we came on our own because we feel so strongly about this. And like I said, maybe it's the ordinance that needs to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the City Council this evening?
Hi, my name is Rick Coleman. Like the last few people, I wasn't planning on speaking at all. I don't like speaking in public at all. But I wanted to just share with you. I moved to Port Huron a year and a half ago into Vision Quest, and I'm 45 years old. I was born and raised in Flushing, which is a very nice town. And my my mother was an alcoholic, and she was a functioning alcoholic for many years. And she was very scared to talk to anybody and get help. She didn't want the stigma of being a known alcoholic in our town, in our small community of Flushing. She didn't want that to get out to anybody, okay? So 3.5 years ago, my father died from being an alcoholic, from active alcoholism. He died. 2.5 years ago, my mother quit drinking on her own with no help from AA, with no help from recovery, with no help from talking to anybody. She quit. She was sober for 1 year, and she drove into Flushing Park, and she took a razor blade and she killed herself. My mother had never been arrested a day in her life. My mother had never been accused of having any mental disorders ever. I have 3 sisters and a brother who are not alcoholic and who are not addicts. I am. I have a daughter who's 19, and I'm a grandfather of a 2-year-old. I moved out here to turn my life around, okay? I have a very bad record, okay? If you were to run my name, you would not want me living in your town if you based on, I don't have any child things or anything like that, but I have criminal behavior from being an addict most of my life. See, my parents always talked down to me because I was an addict. They're both dead now from being an alcoholic. But they talked down to me like I was less than because I was addicted to drugs, okay? So the other side of me that people won't see is that when I went to college, I was top of my class. I was on the dean's list every semester, and I obtained a degree for heating and cooling, and I won a scholarship through my college, and I'm in a National Honor Society book for academics for the entire country, okay? I'm very self-supporting. When I'm living in recovery, I'm able to start businesses and hire other people and give them careers, not just jobs, not just $8 or $10 an hour jobs. I'm able to hire them and pay them $15 to $25 an hour and help them start a career. So being here in Port Huron this last year and a half, being in Vision Quest has helped me tremendously. I had an abscess in my leg 8 months ago, and I had just had a hip replacement. Being in Vision Quest is helping me not get on narcotics. Being in Vision Quest is helping me not go out and seek drug dealers for pain medication because the doctors won't give it to me, because I went to McLaren Hospital and I told them that I'm an addict. You cannot give me all the stuff that you give normal people, you know? I have to go through some of the pain. I have to deal with it because my life is more important to me right now. I can absorb a little bit of pain. But the thing is having a place to go home to, like Vision Quest, is very important to me right now. It keeps me in front of people who are also recovering and who understand what I'm going through, okay? So just to have this place right now is very important for me. I don't want to end up like my mother and father. They were too scared to reach out to people and to tell people that they had a problem, so they suffered in silence.
Mr. Coleman, your 4 minutes is up. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Mayor Rep, City Manager, City Council members, I was here on the 12th of June and read a letter to you guys, and I'd also send it to you on the 1st of the month. I'm here because I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. I have 40 years of recovery under my belt.
Would you give us your name?
William Brown, 1719 Minnie Street. I've lived there for nearly 40 years. I'm here because I'm really concerned about what may happen to Vision Quest as a result of what I'm hearing and reading in the papers, and I would really like to get some answers from you, if possible, especially Mr. Freed, in regards to what's going to happen. I'm also looking around this room, and I would like people here that have gone through Vision Quest just to stand up.
Excuse me.
We don't normally
We
do
don't,
that. That's,
just address that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So anyhow, there's a huge crowd of people here that were in Vision Quest. I have never been in Vision Quest other than to go there to try to help other people that have addiction and alcohol problems. And I would certainly think that I'm thinking about a house on Court Street where there were 2 deaths within the last month. Then these are not 3 recovery houses. These are houses where people go to that they haven't got a decent place to live. And these houses provide a safe environment for people that have alcohol and opioid addictions, other addictions. And I would urge you to consider finding a way to keep these 3-quarter houses open and remove the cease and desist order. Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience?
Good evening. Shane Hernandez, State Representative for this area, but also a resident of Port Huron. I myself was not going to talk at all tonight. I just doing my rounds of the City Council and Township meetings like I normally do. You guys have seen me here quite often. And I brought some reading with me tonight to keep me occupied if it went lengthy, and that reading just so happened to be a legislative analysis of combating the opiate epidemic that the State House is just working on. So I thought, wow, it's interesting. I brought that with me tonight because I got to address a group tomorrow regarding this, and here we are. This is what we're talking about at the council meeting tonight. I'm not going to speak either way on the ordinance situation or the situation with the homes here. Again, I'm a resident. I want to see these homes be cooperative with their city government. I want to see them work safely with their city government. But what I do want to talk about tonight is something, I think most of you guys were at the National Day of Prayer, and something I spoke about and it's something we don't run into very often as elected officials, of having a group be proactive and come to us looking for solutions. And I'm somebody who doesn't believe the government is the answer to a lot of our issues. And what I see behind me today is a group of residents, a group of pastors, a group of people who are very interested in this topic. And what I hope, and I think in front of me I have a group that's very interested in solving this issue too. I think we all know it's a serious problem facing our communities. The state's addressing it. We talk about it all over the place. But what I see is an opportunity here. This is something that we talked about at National Day of Prayer that we should be excited about. When people get involved, community organizations get involved, churches get involved, and I just want to say that I see an amazing opportunity here for everybody in this room to work together going forward, and I just hope that we can address this issue as a community and not just as government. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the City Council this evening? Seeing no one else, I will declare public comment closed. Certainly, this is an emotional subject and something that does need a solution. And certainly, I think you have some comments to make about where we stand with the Vision Quest right now.
Absolutely. First and foremost, thank you all for taking the time out of your summer night to come here. It shows a lot of courage to speak publicly about this for far too long. This has kind of gone underneath the radar across our state and across the country, and we're seeing an epidemic because we don't talk about it. So I applaud your efforts to bring this to the forefront, to bring light to this issue. As city manager and as the city government, our priorities go, when we address this issue, are number 1, protection of life, number 2, sustainability of recovery, and then number 3, finding a modeling for continuum of care. So first and foremost, protection of life. The cease and desist letter, if you read the entire letter, it was actually a request to Vision Quest to come meet with us. We knew this has been going on. There's many of you here tonight, But over the last several years, there's been equally as many coming to our council meetings, reading off lists of these homes, neighbors and residents who are concerned, who don't know what these homes are because they are under the radar. A lot of misinformation or no information. And so our request of Vision Quest was to come meet with us, and our letter specifically said we would like to work with you to essentially come into compliance. We have every legal right to shut down all the Vision Quest homes right now. But because our number one priority is protection of life, we have not done that. We have not gone and got a court order. We have not forced these homes closed immediately because, to be quite frank, there's 80 human beings in this program currently, and their lives matter, and they need to be protected. And so we're not going to do that as a community. We want to work together. So I hope you recognize that we have taken that step, so that we've requested a meeting with Vision Quest. Second priority is sustainability of recovery. So we see a national epidemic, and we need to play the long game on this. Recovery and recovering from this opioid epidemic in our community and across the state and across the nation, this is not going to be a 1-month, 6-month solution. This is going to be a multi-year strategy to combat this issue. So we need to find a sustainable model that we can sustain this program in the city of Port Huron and St. Clair County and in the state of Michigan. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to meet with Vision Quest, is how can we work with this organization to make them come into compliance to our laws, to find them proper locations. We had a meeting with Vision Quest, and our specific was we're not trying to shut you guys down. We're going to find a way in proper locations, proper facilities. We had excellent brainstorming discussion on growing the program in a proper location. We look at the continuum of care. The third priority is a continuum of care, a modeling of continuum of care. One of the issues and the problems we lack in our community is we do not have a facility for those who are just entering recovery. We don't have that facility. The closest one, I believe, is Yale. And so where do people go when they come into our office or they come into a church and say, I need treatment right now? Where can we take them? And we don't have that facility. Recovery House is the next step. But the initial step we don't have. As a community, we're lacking that, and we lack an answer to that question. We believe that Vision Quest, the Blue Water Pastors Association, we believe that those are questions that we can answer together. So you have our commitment when working with Vision Quest is we're going to be humane about this. The model will change, but it may change over a couple years. We also need to know that Vision Quest needs to be respectful of our laws. And of the 30,000 residents who already live here, who bought homes in certain residential districts based on certain assumptions of what their neighbors and neighboring uses would be like. And so we need to work with them as well. If you want to have a sustainable program, you must have community buy-in. And community buy-in must come from the residents in that neighborhood as well. And right now there could be a disconnect there based on some misinformation. So we will meet with Vision Quest again, I believe, next week or 2 weeks from today. We have another meeting with Vision Quest to work with them and how we can become compliant. What do we do about the current residents? Are they going to stay there? Some properties are in compliance, some are not. We want to work with them, but they point blank said to us, for years we've just hidden in the shadows because we knew we weren't legal. Well, that's not a way to make a program sustainable, especially when we have an epidemic. And so let's continue this conversation. I appreciate the civility of tonight. This is an important issue. I know it's an emotional issue, but if we're going to win the long game, we need to maintain civility and work together. And you have our commitment as the city manager, as the mayor and council, and as city administration, from our legal counsel, that we will work towards solutions, not just shutting people down. We haven't done that. And I hope that effort's recognized. So I appreciate you again showing the courage to come to our meeting tonight. We see a lot of human capital here. There's value in people. I said this last week, 2 weeks ago, and I'll say it again. In the city of Port Huron, we do not have throwaway people or throwaway populations. The future of Port Huron has a place for everybody. And so let us work together to develop a long-term sustainable solution to, one, protection of life, sustainability of recovery, and finding a continuum of care model that can be modeled across the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freed.
Oh, can I say something? A comment?
Sure.
Oh, okay. So the bottom line, city manager, is that nothing has come before this council in terms of shutting down anything, and so that is not an issue with us, or at this point, right?
We believe that Vision Quest is working in good faith
Okay.
to continue this discussion. The fact that they're holding meetings with us, being very open and transparent about their operations and bringing this to light, that's a healthy sign.
Okay.
I believe that's a sign that they do want to find a solution.
No, I just-
So, yeah, nothing's been brought forward yet.
Okay, I just want to know just the answer, just a short answer of it, okay? So, it's sometimes when we open our mouths, I know a lot has went into the Port Huron Times-Herald, and when you say something, you can't get it back, even if you didn't mean it. And it has caused the people that come before us, and I don't know about anybody else up here, but, I have a heart, and I feel that, and I feel the pain, okay? It's almost as though we have the pastor talking about all the people dying of things, and thank God you're here still. You can come to this mic and tell us, like you need to be talking to each other. You need to be talking to kids so they won't end up where you are, So I'm just saying, you poured your hearts out here, here on public TV and everybody, just to tell us that because you felt threatened because the place that has done so much for you, you don't want to see it close. And I don't think anybody up here wants to see it close either. But us as governmental officials, who when we govern, to me, I'm sitting here asking myself, what is in this that got this so screwed up? And it is a law or ordinance or whatever that they say they have to kind of look over or whatever, but we still have a duty. Number one is safety, your safety, whether you're a user or not a user. And I think Mr. Hernandez said it right. We all have to find that common spot where we have to do it together. And there's a reason. God has a reason for everything to happen, like you came up here. Like, we can't turn the clock and make your lives to be something else. You are where you are today because that was on you, and you got up here. And you have every right to turn that around. And as a council and leaders of this community, we need to open up those gates to see. We need to have that availability here, what we offer in terms of service. That's who we are as people. This is American Home of the Free. We can't tell you you can't come here because you came from Flushing or you came from Flint or Detroit. We are a community of all people, all diversity. Most people blend it to black and white, rich and poor. No, we're all in this together. And we need to find a way, like he said, I just applaud, even everybody in here. We used to be in the times where everybody started clapping, and it's not a time for all that. You just need to search your heart and your soul to see what can I do in the space that I occupy to help continue to make a difference. We're not the enemy. You're not the enemy. And you're not victim. Please don't feel like that, like it's helpless. There is something we can do. We just got to sit down and get to it where we need to be at. And to the pastor, I'm a faith person, and I believe in prayer, and that answers everything. I mean, it's more than what you all, what you can bring to the table. At the end of the day, it's about him, but we have to meet him halfway and do what we have to do. So I'm not trying to preach to you, but these are some peerless times, and it's very critical that we don't be misled. That's what I'm saying. You had an article, a Times-Herald article, that, went off the mark. People try to sell newspapers, you try to do this, people try to confuse you, and the person we know is not the author of confusion. So don't bite that bait. It never works. You're to be commended where you are, and and I'm glad that we have this, and you're back in society, and you're making a difference. Maybe we all didn't start off the same. Like I never did go through the drug thing. I was always a designated driver. I let you, didn't even know how to drive. They say you got a needle under the wheel. They were drinking or smoking, but I just never was attracted to that part of my life. But I have a lot of family members that have gone through that too. So the reason I say that is because we all got a story to tell. Even some people up here not talking, we have a story to tell. So I just try to encourage you, to keep doing what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with coming here, standing up. That's our job. That's what we ran for, to listen to you. So I wasn't bored with it, but I am encouraged, and I am, like I said, you just feel something. You weren't just talking. You reached me in the heart, not the mind, the heart. And I just don't, I'm just saying to myself, you shouldn't have never had to go through this, but you did. And so we have to go from there to do something about it. But what we do about it, how you go about it, makes all the difference in the world in order for you to get impact and the results that you want, or not so much want, that you need, that we need to happen here in our city of Port Huron. So we're just in this together, so I just want you, to know that. So the next time that we talk, or we, in the paper, we need to be more, kind of, mindful of what we're saying and how we say it, because you never know what other people are thinking out there. A lot of people read that, and, and they won't stop and think, well, what are they trying to do, And we plant seeds every day in our lives. You guys know that. You plant seeds and they grow, and they don't grow like what you think is coming up. Like you throw the seed in and grow apples, and all of a sudden here you're getting some turnips. So, so I just say, just, hold on and trust in, upstairs, and you're going to be all right. And as a council, we're not your enemies. We're not against you. We're not closing anything. This is a part of who we are as a community. We have to do what we need to do for the residents and the people that live here within this city of Port Huron. And you are a part of Port Huron. And we need you to help us with the other drug problem, the people dying. That's no joke. And I think that even though there are two different things over here in this hand, you're talking about a place that they can go into, but they are at a different level than what you are. But there is a connection right there that you can help kind of get in front of that, to help that entity right there. It is. It is. It's a lot of space. So just God bless you, and just hang in there, okay? And work with us. Thank you, Mayor Rupp.
We'll move on to...
Mayor Rupp,
Councilmember Ward.
I'd just like to say something here. With one thing I want to make sure it's put on the table. When you have this many people come forward, it makes it with the success stories of it, maybe it's not an exact model. Maybe we should be talking with them to find out, apparently this is working to some extent, and to make sure we really open the door and look at that. Maybe we can learn something from how and what is going on that's creating this successful story and successful environment. So I just want to make sure that when you do these meetings and talk, that we really also may look, when somebody's really potentially good at something, we might want to also look in to see what is that secret ingredient and what is making it successful, to make sure that we don't shut that off when you're going through what option or solution might be come out of this. Thank you.
We will move on now to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford.
Mayor Rep,
Yes.
could you take off the city manager number 2 off the consent?
Number 2.
Gone. We will take the vote.
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Warden.
actually, I think it's ordinance second reading number 3 and 4.
We will take the vote on the other items.
Okay. Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Items on the consent agenda: confirming and approving single-lot special assessments for special trash pickup in the right-of-way. Second reading and enactment of the ordinance adopting the codification and revision of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Port Huron. And second reading and enactment of an ordinance to amend Chapter 12 Businesses, Article 11 Secondhand Dealers, and the addition of a new section of there with exceptions to certain requirements of the Act of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for purposes of clarifying licensing requirements for secondhand dealers to be consistent with the state law. Those are the items that were adopted on the consent agenda. We'll move to, from the city manager, number 1.
Accepting the bid from Watson Brothers Company in the amount of $5,100 for plumbing faucets and laboratory valves for McMorran.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz, is there discussion?
This is budgeted part of that, yeah,
Correct.
okay.
We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item number 2 under from the city manager.
Approving amendments to the 2016-2017 budget for end-of-the-year adjustments.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Lamb. Discussion.
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Harris.
I guess my bottom line question is here is when we look at this new influx of money, how do we determine in where this goes? I mean, what administrative criteria do we use? You know, with our debt and the health and benefit funds and stuff like that, and I don't see any of this money going into there. And maybe James or
Yeah, I'll gladly give you a quick recap. First and foremost, you'll see that our state shared revenues were significantly up $360,000. That was due to an overpayment in the personal property stabilization fund. That will not be there next year as a one-time influx. As for all the additional money, we're actually still in a deficit. We originally had projected our deficit at about $965,000. About $300,000 of that was capital for the elevators that we rolled over from the previous year. So now we're only running with a $435,000 offset of new revenue. We saw a deficit shrink from $965,000 to only $530,000. So there was no new money, our deficit just shrank. But we're hopeful that that will end well. We just did a cell phone tower sale. If that revenue comes in and we can realize that before the end of the fiscal year, it should be beneficial. I would also note that there are some additional expenses like Parks and Recreation and Public Safety, which were due to significant overtime costs because of beach patrols and a lot of things at Lakeside Beach. You saw significant, I think it was like tripling the amount of use of Lakeside Beach and Lighthouse Beach. But in addition to that, we saw corresponding revenue, about $142,000 of park entrance fee to help cover that. So you saw rising costs accordingly and rising revenue to offset it, specifically with grants. But again, we are still running a deficit, just a deficit about $430,000 less.
Does that answer your question then?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Warden.
Just been kind of, as we constantly have, you know, these discussions going forward, and even the recent budget that we just did. This, we're gonna, and I've been saying this with the recovery, we're gonna. It's at least expected to continually to have increase in income tax revenue with wages and more activity, and I think this income tax revenue being higher than what was budgeted is we should, again, it's expected. Property taxes, again, is this strictly just from the, is this addressed strictly to just the increase of the taxable value? Or is this, I mean, how far, what was the original estimated base? What caused this?
So this is specifically addressed to the rise in the property value that are allowed under Prop A. The income tax, although rate up by $100,000 on a $6.3 million budget, that's not very much. Contrary to the recovery, we actually project that in the next couple of years we'll see stagnant growth in property taxes. Where it's predicted that a recession will probably begin. We'll see an automotive slowdown. So my concern is that in the next year to 2 years, we will actually see stagnation and negative growth in income tax moving forward. So that's something I don't think we can anticipate a 1 or 2% revenue increase year over year moving forward. I think that's kind of the peak and valley, and we're getting ready to hit another valley soon.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that, again, it's a positive. It's a sign we're going in the these type of trends are a long time coming, and it's nice to have this extra revenue. And again, I agree with Councilmember Harris when we have some of these revenues that come in higher than expected. Just, I know you had a deficit in the original budget or shortfall. I do think we should be changing our mindset and making sure we now, when it does, we try to really strictly allocate that toward paying toward those unfunded liabilities the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I would just point out that we have no additional surplus. We are still in a $500,000 deficit. There is no money to put towards unfunded liabilities or additional cost. Our deficit went from $1 million to $530,000. That's still a deficit of $500,000. When in fact we get surplus funds, if that ever happens, we will surely pay down the unfunded liabilities. But I don't want the miscommunication to be with the public that somehow we are running a surplus. We in fact still have a $500,000 deficit that will be paid for out of fund balance, and that deficit is projected to grow.
We will take a vote.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. We'll move to resolutions. Number 1.
Approving the agreement with Tetra Tech of Michigan, P.C. for the engineering, coordination, and administration of the city's utility master planning and general services for fiscal year 2017.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz, is there discussion?
Could we have an explanation, please?
Madam Mayor, council members, this particular contract is a continuing contract with Tetra Tech. We've had in place for, this is our 17th year, goes back many years. It's varied in scope and size depending on the needs of the city. What this contract actually does is it allows the engineering department to, they provide services to the engineering department, and it effectively takes the place of 2 to 3 or more engineers and inspectors that we don't have to hire every year. The scope changes every year. The value of the contract has gone as low as $102,000 and as high as $748,000 per year at the height of the CSO design work. This year, the biggest change from last year is we're adding asset management, an MDEQ requirement for both the water and the wastewater plant, and we need to go through the asset management process to satisfy the DEQ requirements, and Tetra Tech happens to be expert in this. They're helping us with our hydraulic model for our sewer system. They're working on utility master plan for both the hospital and the government area. They're working on our I&I program, which is a follow-up to the CSO work. They're helping us with our NPDES permit, and there's still one CSO area left, which is the MDOT Plaza area, which we are working with Tetra Tech is our engineer working with MDOT to try to satisfy this problem, to satisfy both MDOT and DEQ. They've got a permit condition that says we have to have this completed by 2019. In any case, that's what this is. It's an engineering services contract that essentially Tetra Tech is acting as part of the engineering staff for the city.
Okay. And Mayor, just as a follow-up, and so I know your first comments were we used them 17 years or that. So what's the catch? Is the familiarity with the job itself?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the key? Oh, okay.
We have many engineering contracts that we have with other engineers to do specific projects, and they may be multi-year for bridge work or et cetera. But in this particular case, we've worked with them for so many years. They're very familiar, and they give us a very good price, and they do very good work. And when we need an inspector for a particular project, they're on call. When we need an engineer to design something, they're on call.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor Rep.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor
Yes.
Rep.
Councilmember Ruiz.
In our discussions with MDOT, and since we have this deadline at 2019, does it look like they're going to move on this and come to some decision-making since we've been waiting forever?
That's a very good question. We just met with MDOT last week to discuss that very issue. They were hoping to get a Tiger grant a few months ago. That didn't happen. They know they want to move forward. They've issued us a letter saying that this is what we will help you. They had agreed to pay for 2/3 of the cost of the improvements that are required on their plaza for our stormwater separation. But they've now transferred all operations to the Bay region, and they are less amenable, and we have to have a meeting with them to say, we're not going to go by your standard formula for cost sharing, because their standard formula is not going to cover the cost of construction. And so we're still in the process of negotiating with MDOT.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Harris.
I guess my only comment, I take Lenny back a little bit. I wished I'd had the numbers here tonight, but I think for many years there that Tetra Tech's bill was north of $700,000. It was probably closer to $1 million or $1 million plus. But even with that, I think that when you really look at it, I think after 17 years you kind of get kind of comfortable. It's almost like having your brother stay in the kitchen, and things like that. And I don't take away from their national recognition and what they do and stuff, but I really believe the way we're going right now in the financial situation we're in, that we have to start getting some more competitive bids in this kind of thing. I mean, it just bothers me. And like I say, for years before I was on council, and I probably could go through piles of stuff at home, but when I chased down and looked at the amount of money that we paid in outside engineering in the last 15 years, it'll just rattle people's minds, I mean, I know we did a big project, but so it predates you, but I mean, there's a huge history here, and I would like to see it change someday. Maybe not tonight, but I'd really like to see it change someday. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I take a little issue with that statement, Ken, or excuse me, Councilman Harris, for the fact that we don't just give out contracts because we're familiar with someone. Lenny, just before you escape real quick, can you talk about our qualified bidder selection process, what it takes to become a bidder, essentially a qualified engineering firm to do work with the city, how often you review that, and what type of internal controls and checks and balances you put in place on these firms?
Yes, sir. We have an annual requirement to submit qualification packages for all engineering firms that want to do business with the city. We've gotten as many as 24 and as few as 7 over the past, but we're getting more responsive, and we have a complete qualifications package, and that means you're now qualified to do work in whatever particular area that they've been submitted. And we then have packages that we submit, either an RFP or a request for proposal, or bid documents. Usually it's an RFP for engineering services, and it's done according to the state statutes and best practices, which is it's evaluated on a technical basis when we need, for example, the design for the bridge rehabilitation for 10th Street. And we did this last year, and we got engineering services from a half dozen firms throughout the state. We narrowed it down, we picked the best firm, and then we negotiated the price. We got a competitive price that was found to be within our budget, and then we had to move forward. They had to be properly certified in all the different areas that the DOT required for this type of work. In some cases, we had to have an underwater bridge certification engineer who was scuba qualified, because you had to examine the footer of the bridge at an elevation of 10 feet below the water. This is a new requirement, and we had to find engineers that are qualified to do that. Tetra Tech's not one of them, but.
Lenny, real quick, when you work with the firm over many, many years, like Tetra Tech and the CSO and our utility specifically, do you find that their experience regards to our specific operations, that because they don't have to do the research, they don't have to send engineering to learn our system, that we actually save money by using a firm that has experience with our city?
Yes, sir, that's exactly the case. If we didn't have a firm like this on retainer, we would have to essentially be hiring 2 or 3 engineers in-house to maintain that same level, and that cost would never fluctuate as our needs be. That cost would only go up. So essentially what having an engineering firm on retainer has done for us is allows us flexibility of having a relatively small engineering staff, that we don't have to ramp up and move back down every year when our requirements change. We've been able to keep a relatively steady level of staffing within the city because of this.
Thank you.
What happens is, and we've got an engineering firm that brings in expertise from not just their own office, but from other offices. So it saves us money and gives us services that we wouldn't be able to get easily otherwise.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
is there any way you can benchmark the cost, or
Absolutely.
with others, just so, because
Yes,
he's been on this for some time.
We actually, that's part of the
Yeah.
qualified bidding process, where
Right.
they're billable hours for this level of engineer, this level of staffer. We do that with all of our professional services, everything from a law firm to an engineering firm to any type of professional service we do. We benchmark based on what is market value, what are other people charging. Absolutely, we do that.
Yeah, well, maybe you just need to put something, flash in front of us, just to put it in perspective, so can't.
Thank you.
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Warden.
Lenny, just, is on Tetra Tech, is this agreement, was it to be bidded out? Or was it, you mentioned something about having them on a retainer, they know they do other things for us? Is this, because they're on a retainer, now you're looking to have them provide this service?
They give us a new contract proposal every year. We evaluate it, we negotiate with them what the scope of work is that we need for the upcoming year, and we negotiate the price. Once we've come to an agreement, we bring it here for approval.
So this is just a separate,
agreement, yes,
and
sir.
there was no other,
I use the term retainer as an example, but it's not exactly a retainer.
Okay.
It's not like we're hiring a law firm.
so this was not bid out?
No, sir.
This right here was not?
It's a negotiated settlement.
With just one firm?
For architectural engineering firms in the state of Michigan, you don't bid the price of those services.
I'm just saying, there's one firm was invited or engaged in this Tetra Tech?
So you don't bid the price of the services.
Yes.
You have a technical review, and then once you've picked the firm, then you would have, but no, we did not do that in this case. Tetra Tech has been doing these services, and we want to continue doing these services. If we were to do what has been proposed and try to bring in other firms, our first year or two, we would double or triple this number because of the fact that they'd have to get up to speed on everything that we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Warden?
No.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
No.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. We'll move on to resolution number 2, please.
Authorizing payment in the amount of $15,578.99 to Pyatt Sales and Services Incorporated for repairs to the 2012 aerial ladder truck.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
Chabal and Ashford.
Madam Mayor, is it okay if we have Todd Schaude come up and talk briefly on this?
Yeah, I see by the resolution that it gives the information, but for the public's benefit, yes.
Good evening.
I can't hear you.
Good evening.
Oh, okay.
So, it's always dangerous to ask your lawyer to speak about mechanical issues. If you scratch the surface of my knowledge of how a aerial ladder truck works, you'll probably get more surface.
Oh, okay.
But the city purchased a aerial ladder truck back in 2012, largely through the use of a very large grant. The truck came with a 1-year warranty that covered everything. From the very beginning, this truck has had a lot of problems. At one point in time, we were able to convince the manufacturer to extend that warranty for an extra 6 months. So we had really an 18-month warranty, and unfortunately, we're past that warranty period, and we've continued to have some very significant problems with the ladder truck. This bill is actually because if you can imagine a ladder truck with a ladder, the ladder is actually connected to the truck by a swivel. And that swivel, of course, has a lot of torque on it. Apparently what happened, unbeknownst to the city, is that one of the main bolts holding the swivel in place began to come out. And as it came out, the ladder did not sweep or pivot exactly right, and that ended up cutting some of our wires, and our control panel became a huge issue, including while it was in use, and that's usually when it's discovered. So it became a very big safety issue. So the truck was sent back to our normal service entity, which is Pay It. So they're not the manufacturer, they're the entity that services the vehicle. They had to send it out to another entity because it involves a very significant project of taking this very heavy ladder structure apart to do the repairs, and that's what the bill is basically for, is $15,000 for that. Now, we did make a warranty claim to try to pursue this under a theory that this fell within another portion of the warranty, which was actually a 20-year warranty on the weldment, and that was denied. So right now, we still have the bill that we owe to Pay It, and Pay It's not the one who provided the warranty, so this is a bill that, you know, we would have to pay it. This wouldn't preclude our ability to still pursue the warranty claim if we so chose. But this is going to continue to be an ongoing issue. Just recently, since we've received the truck back, we've had additional major structural issues. The weldment has actually started to come apart in spots, and it has now been sent back. And the manufacturer is agreeing that that part of the repair is covered by the warranty. So tomorrow I'll be speaking with several representatives from KME to pursue a long-range plan, because obviously we need a ladder truck that works and has the confidence of our firefighters, and right now we don't have that.
Madam Mayor, just to kind of summarize this, we didn't think it was fair for the middle guy who did the work to not get paid, waiting for us to fight it out with corporate. And so if Chief Reeves were here, he would tell you we got sold a lemon.
Yeah,
I mean,
it sounds that way.
it is an absolute lemon. The truck has been nothing but problems. Google KME, you can read horror stories across the country about similar issues. KME has not been in good faith working with us, I don't believe, on this specific issue. The truck is currently in Roanoke, Virginia, having major structural work done. Chief of Operations main guy and Fire Marshal Larry Warren physically drove it there themselves on a long trip at 40 miles an hour up the hills to get it there, to have this repair work done. We have a full memo detailing the problems we've had with this, but at this point, when we've got the lawyers involved, if I can put it that way. I've directed Todd to take it that route, because we have a lemon truck with too many issues. We should not be on the hook for this many repairs. So that is where it's at, and we'll brief you further on. But it's not fair. This is a small-town guy just trying to do the best work for the city, and he should get his bills paid. It's not fair to hold him up.
But we are pursuing it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You did a very good job of technically describing that, too.
You know what color the truck is, Todd?
I did climb on the truck.
He didn't do that great because he lost me with the swivel part. I thought, what? Okay.
Any other discussion from council? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Resolution 4.
Approving a one-year extension to the collective bargaining agreement for the Command Officers Association of Michigan, starting July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, with all terms and conditions in the agreement remaining unchanged through this extension period.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz. Discussion.
Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Warden.
I just want to say thanks to the Command Officers Association for extending that contract with the city while we're going into for at least another year. Thank you.
I agree. We will take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll move on. Ordinance number 3.
Second reading and enactment, an ordinance to amend Chapter 52 zoning, Article 1 in general, Section 52-3, definitions A through I, Section 52-5, definitions R through Z, and Article 3, district regulations, Division 16, Schedule of Regulations, Section 52-621, Schedule, footnote B, of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances, for the purpose of clarifying terms related to waterfront setback without changing the intent or distance of the setback requirements.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second?
Councilmember Lamb. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Warden.
Just, David, are you, just regarding this, just a couple
Do you have a
questions?
question?
Yeah, a couple questions.
Mr. Friedel.
You want to handle it?
Yes, let's,
I
David
just-
can come up too, but,
Yeah, just real quick on,
no, I'm not sure if we covered this at the last meeting, so.
Yeah.
well, I'd like to know if there has been any feedback or communication from the public at all regarding this.
Mayor and council, no, we have not.
Okay. And I just had, this is, again, just the, not to affect the waterfront setback. And I just have a quick, as far as, this is just strictly the positioning or the position of the structure, the wording of the structure, that's the two parcels that are next to it. So I have a quick question about if it is on waterfront, and again, I think Black River is considered waterfront as well. If there's the point of reference, if there's nothing to one side and something's looking to be built in a spot there, how are you guys going to address that with this ordinance?
We also look to two houses to either side, so even if there is a vacant lot, there is still the other adjacent property that is taken into consideration.
And if it's not a house, I mean, you mentioned house, I think wording has changed to be a structure, right, or dwelling structure?
Dwelling, it's being changed, right, in the past it's been structure, which gave more latitude.
Yes.
Now we're focusing more on the dwelling,
Yes.
because really the intent of the ordinance is to protect the views from the dwelling itself.
Yeah, for the neighbors.
Correct.
And this won't affect at all the way the setbacks are. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this?
Mayor Rep. I was just going to ask David while I was at it, took it when I made a walk the other day. Did this affect the setback or anything with the building on Arch Street, those two new places on Black River?
No.
None. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, we'll move on to ordinance on number 4.
Second reading and enactment, an ordinance to amend Chapter 52 zoning, Article 3, District Regulations, Division 8, C-1, General Business District, Section 52-382, and Division 9, CBD, Central Business District, Section 52-412 of the Port Huron Code of Ordinance for the purpose of allowing tattoo parlors and tattoo establishments as principal permitted uses in a C1 zoning district and a CBD zoning district within a 500 feet distant requirement.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, is there a second?
Second?
Councilmember Archibald, is there discussion?
Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Warden.
Yeah, I brought this up as a question before, and it had time to think about how this is going to affect. And my question was clarifying 500 feet distance requirement, and it's from the building that it's in, is my understanding. And there are multiple again, some buildings or strip malls might be way longer than, or where it is on a building like downtown that actually has frontage on Huron, and then it also goes to the back on Grand River. If that tattoo establishment is actually in the southeast corner, 500 square feet of that building, or 1,000 square feet of that little building, but the building boundary is, 200 feet from the farther side of the west side of the building and down. I just want to make sure that we come up with if that starts to be a deterrent. I know this is meant to be more opening, at least descriptive, I think, that we need to make sure we address where the establishment is in one building. It might be on the far north end of something, and the building might be 200 or 300 feet as far as distance to the other end of the building. It would start at that south side, 500 feet down. So I guess it may create a much further distance than the 500 feet barrier. So I just wanted to make sure that we keep that in mind if we do start coming across that, where there's starting to have an issue with where it's at, the building itself, where the establishment is within that building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. That concludes our agenda. A couple of announcements. City offices will be closed this Tuesday, July the 4th, in observance of Independence Day. The Yard of the Year nominations for the Beautification Commission's annual contest can be submitted to the city clerk's office. Deadline for that is July the 15th. Is there anything else that?
Madam Mayor, is it okay if Nancy Windsor comes up for just a brief moment to update the council on the Knoxfield project?
Sure.
She's been really excited about this. She texted me 3 times about it, so.
Mayor and City Council, thank you for having me up here. I just want to let everybody know that the construction of the Knox Park splash pad is coming very well. Our crews have been working very hard to get ground restoration done and to work on putting benches in. We're also waiting for, we didn't want to open the pad up until the fence was in. As you remember, late winter, we got a grant for fencing from MMRMA. It's a mouthful. And it's very hard to get fence people this time of year, so we're working hard to get the correct material that is projected to be here on Friday. He said he would work over the weekend, so we're hoping to have an opening for Monday. So everybody say prayers to the fence people that all works out. But that's the reason why we've delayed the opening. We really were more concerned about the safety and just to dispel anything about being on 24th Street. I like to thank Mary because I know she was at the meetings that we had with the neighborhood, and I believe Kevin was as well. But we talked about where to, what would Knox Park need, what does Knox Park want, and in this beautiful neighborhood park. And thank you to the Stebbins family, because this is the only way we could do innovative play areas in our parks, is through donations and generosity of people like them. Because obviously, the state of the city is financial, and we don't have the money to do it. So I'd like to throw a thank you out to them. They are working with me to make these innovative projects in the different park areas. But the neighborhood got together, and we talked about what they'd like to see in Knox Park. And they indicated to me that, 24th is a lot more visible, with police officers or whatever, making our kids safe, and also more accessible to the public housing area to the corner. So that was the reason for that decision. It also allows for, there's a lot of area there down the road. It allows for, if other donors are feeling generous, and I know it's a very loved park by the community, they've also indicated things like exercise equipment, walking tracks, but again, those are all things that our donors make possible. So that's the reasons. I know people have been asking a lot of those questions, and There was a rhyme and reason for everything we did. They're the people that live in the neighborhood. We listen to them. They know, better than me. So I appreciate their input and their help, and I know her sister was very involved, so, and Kevin talks to me every day. So, trying to get what people, want to see in their parks, because innovative play areas in our neighborhood parks are very important. So, if there is any other questions, I'd be happy to.
Nancy, real
answer.
quick, just to highlight some of the things that we've done, is to make it, we want it to be really nice. One of the things that we're concerned about is it's a dry, sandy soil, so we actually invested in sod to ensure that it gets a nice green base and that will take off. Our forestry division is planting nice trees around, it's kind of just an empty field right now, so planting some nice trees, maple trees, something that'll be big and flowering. Also some pine trees on the other side of the splash pad to kind of give it to cover up the utility aspect of it. The fencing, we didn't just do chain link fence, we actually upgraded to a decorative black fencing. So it's going to look real rich when it's done with that decorative black fencing around it. We want it to be someplace really, I'll say it's high end. It's a high end feel when when the package is all put together. So I think on Monday everyone will be real impressed with the amenities out there. And our Parks and Rec crew is literally assembling the benches, installing the trees. I saw them out there today, just working very hard.
And Ben has been working very hard to make that happen, Ben Pyack, so I want to thank them. We want to get it open so the kids can play in it, but see, the weather's not warm yet, it's waiting.
Don't think they missed anything today.
So, is there any other questions that maybe anyone's
Anybody have any
gotten on
questions
it?
for Nancy?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments from council before we adjourn?
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember
just
Wood.
an announcement, the Chamber of Commerce, it's a great organization here that's having their annual golf outing, fundraiser golf outing, good time to meet everybody and get out for a little bit is on Wednesday, this Wednesday, it's in the afternoon. So I wanted to make sure I put that out there for any, there's a luncheon before, and there's actually, you can just come for, you don't have to golf, because I'm not golfing myself. I'm going to go for the, after a little barbecue. It's over at the Solitude, or the Old Four Lakes, the Solitude Links. And are we having, is there going to be a 4th of July, anything for downtown Port Huron? Are we having a parade or anything?
No,
No?
no.
Okay, I just thought I would ask. Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. Anything else from anybody else on council? I would entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Meeting adjourned.